Battlefield franchise has been around for over 2 decades at this point, and with the series being around for this long, it's obvious it's had its fair share of fun facts, trivia, and secrets to collect around it. So here I present to you the definitive Battlefield Iceberg explained. Credit to me. Yeah, I made this image. I know a video explaining it already exists, but it's of my original smaller version and it has a few mistakes in the entries in it. I'll be linking it in the description if you guys want to go check it out. Like and subscribe. Go show the creator some love. But without further ado, let's get into it, starting with the surface. Ever since the beginning of time, i.e. 2008, a great terrible war has been fought between fanboys fighting over which FPS is superior, Battlefield or Call of Duty. Both sides have been equally autistic in their fighting and can be blamed for setting the human race back about 400 years. If you ever want to end a friendship really quickly, just ask your friend which one they think is better, and then go on Discord and spam their DMs with why their opinion is stupid and why they should go commit necrope in a bunker. Both series have things they do better and worse than the other, but I'm not here to talk politics, so just pick one, the other, both, or better yet, neither, and just keep your opinion to yourself. Frostbite has been the main engine the Battlefield games have been running off of since Bad Company 1 back in 2008. Originally, 1942, Vietnam, Battlefield 2, and 2142 ran on the old Refractor engine, which has been around in some way, shape, or form since the old days of Codename Eagle. But with the turn of the 7th generation of consoles, it was finally time for an upgrade, and the series entered a bit of a new era with the change of engine. A number of other games like Plants vs. Zombies, Battle for Neighborville, Mass Effect Andromeda, and the NFL series of games both run on Frostbite, and it's basically turned itself into the main EA engine when they bust out when they need something done quick and dirty style. If there's one thing synonymous with Battlefield, it's terrible launches. Of course, recent events have made this abysmally clear, which we will get to, don't worry. But this series has always had a bad habit of this. BF3, BF5, and especially BF4 had some game-breaking bugs within them at launch that were mostly patched out after a few months, but their remnants still remain if you're playing on last-gen systems. But, just like Billy Joel, 2042 didn't start the fire. DICE has always just been like this. So I'm merging these two entries together, but wow, I have so much to say about 2042. I could basically make my own iceberg chart and everything that went wrong with the development process, how it basically killed the franchise, and it's looking like the main reason why EA is trying to sell itself right now. I'll spare you all the gratuitous detail and just sum it up with this single sentence. Every possible wrong decision DICE could have made while making this was taken. Every single wrong step was made. Every single thing DICE could have done to harm the community was done. This was meant to be the COD killer, and it basically just became the Battlefield and EA killer. Just wow. If you want all the nitty-gritty stuff, just go read the news or watch the Angry Joe review or whatever. Just wow. DICE, I am completely speechless when it comes to this game. Maybe I'll make some content in the future regarding it, but for the meantime, just I can't take it anymore, man. As many of you probably remember, BF5 had a very rocky launch, but even worse yet was its reveal trailer. It was panned out as being one of the most tasteless, out-of-touch trailers to come out as of recent memory, but remember, this was still a time when people thought making fun of feminists on the internet was still funny. The three main reasons for the backlash were the new customizable cosmetics, which had never been seen in the Battlefield game before, the ability to play as a female soldier, and keep in mind the game was set in World War II, or at least heavily themed around it, and the fact that the trailer kind of broke the fourth wall and didn't take itself very seriously. It seems over time though, and especially with the addition of the Pacific Theater, that people have warmed up to the game and it's become quite respected throughout the community. So the Battlefield game names make less sense than quantum physics, it's just a fact of life. The first game in the series was 1942, followed up by Vietnam, and what should have been BF3 was called BF2, basically saying that Vietnam never happened. Then after 4 games, in what should have been Battlefield 7, DICE named the next game BF3, and then followed that up with BF4, and then Hardline, and then basically said that the entire franchise before never happened when they released BF1. I'm pretty sure trying to get across the entire lore of Zelda would be more easy than trying to get across the entire BF chronology. Hannah was one of the main characters from the campaign of BF4, and just showing her face in front of someone who played the campaign is enough to throw them into sadistic screeching. The main reason for all the dogpiling on her character is mainly due to the fact that she betrays you at Singapore and dumps you back over to the PLA, where you have to spend an entire mission trying to crawl your way out of some Nepali gulag. Even though she does come back to rescue you, it's still pretty uncool, man. If there's one thing people want more than to be able to break their addiction to Genshin Impact and actually go take a shower, it's a Battlefield Bad Company 3. The duology that already exists is pretty beloved by people who are veterans of the franchise or who just played it once in middle school with their buddies. A Bad Company 3 has been hinted at by DICE for years at this point and is technically still in development, but as the years go on, it's getting less and less likely that it'll ever see the light of day. Battlefield Friends is an animated comedy YouTube series rolling around a cast of mainly 4 guys messing around in Battlefield. It's become quite popular and is over a decade old, which is impressive considering it's still actively going. Between Hardline and 2042, the series saw a bit of a sharp hiatus, but it seems they're still regularly uploading content now, and it still has its cult following throughout the community. The dinosaur toy has been present in every single BF game since Battlefield 3, except for Battlefield 1, and has become a bit of an insider meme. If you're out of the loop, the meme started from the mission Thunder Run in Battlefield 3, in which you play as a US tanker who carries a little dino toy with him, presumably from his son. Of course, at the end of the mission, you get captured by an Iranian terrorist cell and have your throat cut out on a live stream, but not before the poor toy is destroyed. You did nothing wrong. People began memeing about this, and even trolled an Activision PR rep on 4chan of all things, stating that the reason they wouldn't buy Modern Warfare 2 on PC was the distinct lack of dinosaurs. Even the $60 playable Depression experience, 2042, had this present in the game, where you can find it buried in some boxes. Kind of neat. Little editor's note here, I actually got sick while I recorded these next couple entries. I hope it's not too noticeable. Don't worry, I got tested, I'm fine, but if I sound a little nasally, that's why. The Rendazook is a famous maneuver that was invented by Polish BF3 player Stun Gravy. The original clip shows him in a jet that's being pursued by another. He shoots his aircraft straight up before exiting the vehicle, pulling out a rocket launcher, and shooting the other jet before entering back into his own. The clip was even a reference to the 2042 trailer and has become a semi-popular meme format. Battlefield 5 had a lot of content put in the chopping block that never saw the light of day due to its ho-hum sales and EA wanting to focus on other projects. Probably the most notable of which was an Eastern Front expansion that would have introduced the Soviet Union as a playable faction and brought several famous weapons and vehicles into the game. Data mining has shown that Soviet cosmetics were in the game since day one, but they look like they were ported from the Red Army faction from BF1. Personally, I was already happy with the Pacific Theater and would have wanted to see that expanded, but that's just my opinion. So Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4, and 2042 all share the same universe. For one, Dima, a character from Battlefield 3, makes a cameo in Battlefield 4, and Irish and Pac, who are the main characters of the Battlefield 4 campaign, make an appearance in 2042, although Pac isn't actually in the game, it is in the promotional short film Exodus. This one stings. 2042 demanded so many resources from DICE that their B team in LA had to cancel all projects to go work on it. It sucks not just because 2042 ended up sucking so bad, but also because Battlefront 2, which was DICE LA's main project at the time, had really turned itself around in the right direction and was getting so close to adding Clone Wars and Mandalorian content, but sadly the universe had other plans. The Peacekeeper, yes I messed up in the iceberg, is a secret weapon that you can unlock in Battlefield 1 by completing a complex series of tasks. I'm not even going to go through all of them, as we'd be here all day if I did that. But if you go through all of it, you get this pretty cool revolver to call your own. So the Battlefield series has a history of secret reload animations that play when reloading your gun. Probably the most famous of which is the one with the 410 jury and hardline, but other games like BF4, BF1, and BF5 had reloads of their own. In BF4, you can flip the mare's leg around to chamber a new round. In BF1, you can kind of Clint Eastwood your revolver out after reloading it with a spin. And in BF5, your character can even get Garand Thumb. Battlefield has a lot of Easter eggs. I'm leaving it at that. The Battle Log was essentially a Facebook-style social networking service for Battlefield and Medal of Honor players. It had a forum section where users could communicate with each other, receive development updates on EA games, and allowed you to customize your player character and their weapons from within the website. It was shut down in April of 2021, however the forums are still preserved and readable. Editor's note, I stopped being sick after recording these next couple entries.
So, a lot of Western media doesn't come over cleanly to China, if at all, as the country is pretty well known for its strict censorship laws. Battlefield 4 suffered from this, of course, as the Chinese military is present and not portrayed in the super amazing, glorious high standards you have to meet in order to even get a game or piece of media of this type over there. Although the main antagonist of the game is a rogue Chinese admiral, not the whole PLA itself, you still do a lot of this, and so the game was forbidden from being sold in the country. So, the Battlefield series has had a history of having its updates and future content leaked by data miners. Probably the most famous of these people was Temperate, who was a Twitter user that leaked a significant amount of BF5 content months before DICE themselves announced it. They've also done some leaking for 2042, however the person behind the Twitter account has expressed how they want to quit as they have a family and other matters to attend to now. The Arecibo Observatory was an observatory in Puerto Rico that suffered a catastrophic collapse in December of 2020. What makes this notable was how the telescope itself was modeled as a reference in the BF4 map Rogue transmission, where players can trigger a levolution that causes a similar collapse that occurred to the real-life telescope. Battlefield 3 was notorious for its overpowered developer weapons. Basically, if you happened to work at DICE, you could get access to a myriad of overpowered crap that you could easily smash an entire lobby with. Some of the weapons included the suppressed Spash 12, Laser Sight 44 Magnum, and the silent Saiga 12K. Hot swapping was a mechanic in the campaign of Battlefield 2 Modern Combat that allowed the player to switch bodies and control any unit in the game should they happen to die, or just be upset with their current loadout predicament. A similar feature was used in the Battlefield 1 campaign Storm of Steel, to which when the player died they would switch bodies with another soldier to continue the story. In Battlefield Hardline, you can sneak up on two guys playing Dead Space 2 in the mission Glass Houses. By Serial Games, the creators of Dead Space, co-developed Hardline, so they left a lot of references around. You can also find Isaac's helmet in this map in BF3 Aftermath. Battlefield Vietnam had a World War II mod created for it, released in 2004. What makes this notable was how it was developed in-house by DICE and treated sort of like a mini remaster to the Pacific maps of BF 1942. It was even made physical in the BF Vietnam re-release called Redux. So this entry refers to how, if you wait around for a little bit in different Battlefield games, you can catch characters having secret conversations with one another that you weren't really supposed to hear. In Battlefield 1, you can catch some German soldiers discussing the Red Baron, Harlem Hellfighters, and the Spanish flu in the mission Fall from Grace. Some soldiers make a reference to Battlefield friends in the mission Tashgar from BF4, and again in BF4 you can hear Pack and Irish discuss some not-so-advertiser-friendly things in the mission Shanghai. So you can find numerous references to 2042 in the Battlefield 4 DLC pack Final Stand, such as this little toy Titan, the PAC logo on the side of a crate, and a note talking about a Titan creation in one of the hangars. The Panzerbuch is one of only two anti-material rifles in Battlefield 5. On its own, it's a pretty crap gun, needing to have a round manually inserted after each shot. However, in 2021, a bug was discovered by YouTuber Teabag, allowing the gun to be fired semi-automatically. To perform the bug, you need to equip a demolition grenade and find a spot to lay it down and take your shots. Throw down the grenade and hold down the interact button or key. So long as that key is pressed, you can use the gun in this completely broken and unintentional form. And with DICE ending development for Battlefield 5, it's probably going to be here forever. Codename Eagle was a game published and developed by Refraction Games in 2000. It was set in an alternate 1917 in which World War I was in full swing and the player had to pick a fight in the midst of the Russian Revolution. The game didn't feature any multiplayer, local or online, but featured large open levels in its campaign, with vehicles and a wide arsenal of weapons for the player to take advantage of. The game impressed Swedish developer DICE, they ended up acquiring Refraction later that same year. The engine of the game was used for DICE's 2002 title, Battlefield 1942, and its preceding titles. So the open beta of Battlefield 1 allowed you to change your character avatar to a select set of presets in the menu screen, but this was cut when the game fully released in November of 2016. This would be revised though in 2018's Battlefield 5, which allowed you to fully customize your soldier's appearance. The Stairway to Heaven is the nickname given to the Battlefield 5 Easter egg that unlocks the Eidolon skin. Similar to the Peacekeeper, it's a long and arduous process to obtain the skin, but just know if you're up for the challenge, you're going to need a couple buddies to come along with you as well. If you're really serious about getting the skin, or just want to see all the details around it, go check out this video by Jax for X, I'll have links in the description. Star Wars First Strike is a total conversion mod for Battlefield 2142 released in 2007. It's similar to the OG Battlefront games in style and feel, but still has a sizable player base. You do need a copy of Battlefield 2142 to play the game,
but since it's coming up on its 15th year anniversary, you can find ROM dumps all over the internet, so that shouldn't be that hard. Battlefield 1943 was the last World War II game released by DICE before Battlefield 5, and also one of the smallest in scale as well, with the game only getting 4 maps by the end of its life. It was released on Xbox 360 and PS3 in 2009, with the PC port promised to be coming later. In 2011, however, DICE announced that they would be pulling work from the port over to work on Battlefield 3. Mods do exist, however, to get the game playable on PC today, though. Battlefield and NFS both use the Frostbite engine under their hood. As previously mentioned, it is the EA launcher, but obviously with NFS being a more racing-centric series, its engine has been specialized to accommodate this factor. Both Hardline and BF4 have piggybacked off of Criterion's work and use it to render their driving sequences, such as the opening car chase in Hardline. So, of the Battlefield trilogy of games ending in 42, only one of them has gotten a direct sequel, Battlefield 1942 in the form of Battlefield 1943. 2042 obviously just released a couple of months ago at the time of me recording this, and with its dumpster fire reception, I find it hard to believe DICE to ever come back to in the form of a sequel, at least not in the near future. 2142, however, is widely regarded as one of the best games in the series, and helped inspire games like Titanfall later down the line. A sequel is teased with Final Stand, but that was nearly a decade ago, and 4 other Battlefield games have passed with no news on the project. DICE isn't a stranger to teasing upcoming projects, as seen with this billboard from Battlefield 2, which shows a wristwatch with the time set to 2142 and the phrase "Watch for the Future" attached to it. Who knows, maybe it will come out eventually sometime, or even be added to Battlefield Portal in 2042. Battlefield 3 and 4 both got novelizations written by Peter Grimsdale to hype up their release. I haven't read them, so I can't comment on their quality as books, but you can buy them on Amazon for under $10 if you feel like torturing yourself for 200 pages. The Type 4, or Type 5, was a Japanese prototype semi-automatic rifle produced during the late stages of World War II. It was heavily based off the US M1 Garand, with it having a very similar loading system, although this time with an extended magazine. The weapon was present in Battlefield 1942, 1943, Bad Company 2, and technically Vietnam if you consider the World War II mod to be official. What the entry in the Iceberg is referring to specifically relates to the magazine. In real life, 2 stripper clips, each holding 5 rounds, would be needed to properly load the gun. In Battlefield 1943 and Bad Company 2, you just insert an 8-round en blanc clip like a Garand. Although the gun should be firing 10 rounds instead of 8, the Garand is also present in these games, and I can see DICE editing that to balance out the game. In Battlefield 1942 in Vietnam, this problem is rectified as the gun now fires its intended 10 rounds. However, the reload animation is even worse, with the player character just yanking the mag out and inserting a new one. This wouldn't even be possible due to the mag being welded to the bottom of the gun, but it's still better than the Far Cry 2 Springfield animation. Ugh. In the third mission of the BF1 campaign, Friends in High Places, there comes a part in the level where you have to crash your aircraft onto a zeppelin and are forced to crawl through it in order to disable a flak gun. While walking through the interior, you walk into a hallway with an aviator attempting to extinguish a fire at the end. The hydrogen tank explodes in his face, killing him, and you can walk up and get a closer look at the device he was using to attempt to extinguish the fire with. The fire extinguisher itself is actually a fully rendered version of a time-appropriate one that can be found nowhere else in the game. It just goes to show how much DICE cared about attention to detail and historical accuracy. So at the end of the Battlefield 5 campaign, The Last Tiger, a little afterword plays talking about what you just experienced. In it, the quote, "We shall not capitulate, no, never. We may be destroyed, but if we are, we shall drag a world with us. A world of flames," is stated. It goes uncredited, but after a Google search you can actually see there was a statement made by Adolf Hitler towards the end of World War II. The actual campaign is about a panzer crew who realizes that they were fighting for was a lie and they're just pawns for higher up Nazi officers. And I really think the quote helps drive the narrative home. Bad Company was intended to have a TV special aired on Fox announced in 2012. It would have followed the cast from the games as they enter the private sector and are hunted by a government official who they have some dirt on. A little else is known about the plot, but it's been presumed it's been cancelled for a while now, seeing as it was announced over a decade ago. Battlefield Heroes was a spin-off Battlefield game released in 2009. It has a much goofier atmosphere than its contemporaries and was kind of used as the kid-friendly alternative to all of the this that you were doing in the main games. It doesn't really have that great of a reputation in the Battlefield community though, as it was pretty RNG and microtransaction heavy, but its art style and gameplay have led people to believe that Epic Games directly stole from it while making Fortnite. I can definitely see a resemblance in things, and I wouldn't be surprised if Epic at least was inspired by it, but they're both pretty distinct in their gameplay and sound design. Firestorm was Battlefield 5's attempt at a Battle Royale mode, and after playing a few rounds of it myself, I can actually say that's pretty solid. Of course, when you're a Battle Royale mode forcibly attached to a $60 game, and that $60 game being Battlefield 5, it died quicker than Mel Gibson's career. Criterion officially ended support for the mode only after 2 updates, and left a mystery of a story in its wake. From what they did put in the game, it seems to revolve around a shadow organization named Solace using soldiers as fodder for this experiment with the Ring of Fire in Halvøy, Norway. Many allusions to this can be found around the map, as well as their logo and name plastered in just about every loot crate in the mode. The name Solace itself actually comes from a pagan British goddess, often associated with light and the sun, connecting her to the Ring of Fire that is the game's namesake. Looking through papers and documents cluttered throughout the lobby, you can find that scientists at Solace were looking for some kind of ancient superweapon that they believed to be in Halvøy, and many believe this to be some kind of weather-altering device that Germany could use to control the Ring of Fire and destroy the Allies with. That sounds like some crap Michael Bay would come up if he was given creative control over a Wolfenstein game, but I digress. Anyways, with the mode being cancelled, we'll never know. You remember Medal of Honor, right? The last great World War II franchise of games until it wasn't. Whatever your opinion on the new games is, there's a leading theory as to why they even exist in the first place. Basically, Activision had found their golden goose in Call of Duty, and had been milking it dry using the strategy of having 2 developers work on the franchise at a given time, and then moved it up to 3 devs, then 4, then whoever happened to be in the Activision HQ when the other guys were on break. If you've ever wondered how they managed to squirt out so much Call of Duty in a short amount of time, that's how. Activision had basically found an infinite money glitch in real life, and EA wanted a piece of that pie. You know, being EA and all that. Only problem being, they only had one modern shooter franchise at their disposal, obviously Battlefield. So instead of creating a new one out of thin air, they decided to be resourceful and reboot an old one. I'm not gonna lie, MOH 2010 isn't really that bad, but Warfighter completely shit the bed in terms of sales, and in 2014, no new MOH game was released. EA's plan were to release Battlefield and Medal of Honor sequentially. Battlefield comes out one year, Medal of Honor comes out the other. Bad Company 2 and MOH 2010 both released the same year, followed by Battlefield 3 in 2011, then Warfighter in 2012, which, you know, did the whole killing the franchise thing, and then Battlefield 4 in 2013. A VR reboot was released by Respawn in 2020, so it's good to know the franchise is still remembered, but a mainline entry would be far from expected anytime soon. Sorry to the 4 MOH fans still out there. Battlefield 1982 is a fan concept conceived by Battle Nonsense. Obviously set in the Cold War, he proposed it in 2015 as a framework for a future installment of the franchise. It's quite a complex document for what he envisioned the game to be, which I of course will be linking for you down in the description. He has plans from everything from small arms, a ranking system, to even a universal translator, so he's really covering all the bases. The game sounds like it would make a great mod for something like Battlefield 2. Commander 31 is the main antagonist of the Battlefield 2 Modern Combat campaign. TLDR, he baits China and NATO into going to war with each other until both sides realize they've been played and launch a joint strike on his HQ. He dies off screen as the player calls in an artillery strike that eventually leads to his death. Yada yada, everyone's happy, you got the good ending. Some nutters out there think that he was actually Kirilenko from Bad Company 2, or even Solomon from BF3, which I might touch on when I make my Battlefield Timeline Explained video, probably sometime before the heat death of the universe, so mark your calendars, folks. Frostbite 4 is in development. The only thing I have left for you kids before you go back to sucking crayons and tweeting your BTS fan cams is this. Every copy of Battlefield is personalized, and the Gunter operation is real. So, we finally reached the end. I don't really have much more to say other than I have more Battlefield content planned for the future. Maybe part 2 will come out with more entries and corrections if you guys have any. Also shout out to Temperate Book 8635 and everyone else on Reddit for helping me out in the comments. I'm not going to ask you all to like and subscribe because I respect your intelligence and you would have done that already if you wanted to. But, yeah, see you guys on the flip side.